Welcome into the I-80 Club After Dark. Josh Peterson, Jack Mitchell with you following Nebraska's 21-17 loss to the Ohio State Buckeyes. If you are joining us live, we appreciate you. Hang out. Jack, you ready for this? Like and subscribe.
Nice. Look at that. Why is it Michigan colors?
Those were the colors that Canva had, and so I just kept it. Look at that. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.
Look at that. That's fun.
We do appreciate you joining us. Tonight, we will be hanging out for the next 90 minutes. We do this basically every week, though. Next week, Jack, because I have duties with my day job, we'll be starting 9:30-ish. So truly after dark. Truly after dark.
Drink your coffee.
Next week. Yeah, so we'll be here next week, but we are here for the next 90 minutes. If you are stumbling upon us, you don't know what the hell the I-80 Club is, Jack Mitchell and myself, we started this project a couple of years ago. We do pods. We always promise 2 or 3 pods a week. I don't know. We do like 5 to 7 pods a week now.
We do 1 million pods. The amount of content that we do for everyone.
Yes.
So it's so nice of us, really.
Yes. Like this stuff that we have coming up. Our After Nebraska post-game show, which starts a week from Monday, 9 days away, and we'll be doing select games throughout the early portion of the non-conference and conference season. We would love to have you as a subscriber, whether it's to patreon.com/I-80 Club or certainly to the YouTube page. Again, just click that like and subscribe button. It's so easy, Jack. It's so easy to do.
And set those notifications so you know when After Nebraska ball goes live. It'll vary. It will vary, but I will. Who knows? I mean, it won't be like you said. It's not long till we're gonna actually be talking about basketball games. It won't be long till we're getting into some big ones. Like, do we set the record for all-time viewers after the Creighton game? If either way, if Nebraska wins or loses,
if it's a dub,
because we're gonna get Creighton fans coming in here to troll me. That's 100%.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Oh God, there'll be so many Creighton trolls that are gonna come in.
Well, and Jack, we have an idea that you have run by me for said Creighton game that we have not talked about publicly at all, and so we'll irons in the fire if we end up doing something.
We'll see. But it's about football tonight. It's about late night. Josh and I got our beverages. Doing a little I'm doing a little Oktoberfest tonight. Actually, I got another thing too. I got 2 of them. I'm gonna do 2.
Riss got this recently. Tunnel Vision IPA from Bearded Iris Brewing in Nashville. She was out of town last weekend in that part of the country, so she picked up a 4-pack for us, and so I am having one of those tonight. And final housekeeping as we start the pod.
You're learning to say regular American expressions, Borat. Good job.
Hey, I'm like Nebraska's special teams today. We're coming along. Final bit of housekeeping. If we read comments that is coming from our Discord server, patreon.com/I-80 Club, if you would like to have your comment read, this is where the chat is hanging out, and this is where sometimes Jack gets a little triggered by some of our glorious,
I'm gonna try not to tonight.
Beautiful members.
It's part of the reason. It's part of the charm of the club, I think, for some people. But I am going to
slam your computer down sometimes.
I think I'm gonna do all right tonight. I'm gonna be all right tonight. We'll see. You never know. But I do have a tendency to get triggered by the chat. We'll see if I do tonight. Yeah. By the way, if the chat could help me out, I got Penn State. But let's go. What are we watching right now, Josh? I got Penn State, Wisconsin on my left. So if I'm looking here, I'm checking that.
Yep.
I got Michigan State up there. I had to turn the game off this one so I could put the chat on. So I only have 2 games on right now. What do you got on?
I have the Wisconsin Penn State game as well, and then I have LSU Texas A&M. I have stopped
moving. Who gives a freaking crap about that game?
Well, it's a battle of top 25
What's
teams.
the score? Yeah, I know.
17-7 LSU near the end of the first half. I've stopped moving my TV back.
Suck it.
I've stopped moving my TV back in here because then I have to bring it. I would just bring it right back out into the living room after the podcast, so it's just out there. I need to buy another TV. We have discussed getting another TV for the office.
Well,
it'd just be nice to have one.
Isn't it nice that TVs are the one item in U.S. commerce that have just declined in price, that seem to decline in price every day?
It's amazing.
We're going to start by 2029. They're just going to give them away.
JP says TVs are like $8.
It's barely false. When I got my new outdoor, I got a setup to get a new outdoor TV, and I just went to Walmart and I just bought a TV for it, and I was like, if it breaks, I'll throw it away. It's like, having
wow. What a life. If the television breaks, imagine telling yourself that when you were like 23 years old. You would have been like, what are you talking about?
$70. It's like $70.
How much?
70.
Jesus.
It was
all right,
a
now I'm
small
looking.
one.
Oh my gosh, look at this. A $50 Class
Dude,
4K
TVs
Ultra
are
HD Roku for $198.
They will shock you. Josh, and it's not even like Black Friday. When it gets to be Black Friday, now they're
going to pay us to take the TVs on Black Friday.
Why? Because you're giving them all your info. That's why.
Hey, they can have it. Everyone else has my info. Might as well. I just want the TV.
Yeah, so my TV outside, it survived through the summer. We'll see if it survives through the winter, but But TV's very cheap. You should get one if you want one.
I do want another one.
And if you want a small one, you can seriously get it for like insane. Just go to Walmart. So, somebody's telling us you have.
Yeah, I just realized. I thought I had typed. I literally was saying out loud 21, and then I typed 24. So
trying to Josh already trying to take credit away from the Nebraska defense.
Classic.
There you go. Classic Josh. Classic haterism.
Jack, where do we begin with Nebraska falling to 5-3 on the year, so close to their biggest win? And this was a debate in the chat earlier today. My wife posed the question. This is the biggest win since blank. A lot of us agreed 0-1 Oklahoma. Some people said, I think she said since the national championships. Yeah. So
that must be spit my drink out. She maybe isn't wrong, but
I know.
God, all this. Hold on. I just felt really sad for the first time now that
that was the debate that we could have had in the chat tonight. We could have been debating that was the biggest win since blank, and instead we are talking about Marcus Satterfield.
I tried to put in context to my daughter and my wife, who are becoming bigger football fans, but not like how. Like I was trying to explain to them how monumental that victory would be right after they scored the touchdown, and I didn't even know how to put it into words. I'm like, I don't even know. Like my wife remembered the Michigan State game in 2015, and that was like the best I could come up with in terms of being surprising and beating a good team. But and then they showed the highlight about 5 minutes later of the Oklahoma game in 2001, and I was like, well, because she had asked when was the last time they beat a top 5 team, and I couldn't remember if that Michigan State team was, but they weren't. It's that Oklahoma game in 01.
Yeah. Yep. That was my thought as well. And so instead they don't do that and they lose again, and it goes down to the wire. But certainly a very valiant effort after the loss last week by 49 points. They easily cover the 25.5 point spread. They have the lead in the fourth quarter when the defense goes back on the field. Where do we begin, Jack? And there were a few comments. Mickey, Sadie. Jordan says Satterfield. Many are wanting us to opine about Marcus.
Are they doing that to just trigger or make fun of the other thing, or is that really?
I have to imagine they're trying to trigger you a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be my guess.
I'm sure.
In all seriousness, where do you want to begin with this game?
Man, it's hard. It is hard. I mean, I will be honest with you, Josh. Like until like this moment when I just started thinking about that. Like here, you even mentioned Riss said it'll be the biggest win since in the national championship. Like all of a sudden, that makes me like really sad that we're not having the most massive party possible. Yeah. I said to my wife and daughter too. I was like, if they win, everything that you've planned about this day relating to me is done. Okay, it's over. I don't know what's happening the rest of the night. But like, I don't know. Like, I have come away with this. Well, I don't need to apologize for this. Geez, Josh, all losses are not created equally. And let's quit acting like they are.
All wins aren't created equally.
All losses are not created equally. This was, and this does not mean everybody's going to put the moral victory. Just get that word out of your head for a second, okay? This loss encouraged me because I now have hope for the rest of the season that I didn't have. And it doesn't mean I've got a loser mentality. It means that, wow, okay, make this team, when they play well, which they do some of the time, most of the time, maybe.
Ethical victory, says Mickey, not a moral victory, an ethical victory.
An ethical victory. That the schedule that they've got remaining, that they've got a shot in every game going forward, right? And I'm not guaranteeing a game, but it felt like after that Indiana game, I thought they were going to go in here and get blown out too. And that completely changed the way that I looked at those 4 games. but to do what they did against Ohio State, having a shot to win it, having a defensive performance, Josh, that is still not being talked about enough after that game, I'm encouraged. I am encouraged about the direction of this season and this program after that game. In the Indiana game, did everything possible to take me off of that path because I was very disturbed about all of those things after that game too. So that's where I'll start.
Yeah, a couple comments coming in kind of along those lines. D'Lo says, when you look at last week and where we were 12 hours ago, this game was huge. He had another comment a few minutes ago that, like, basically, it would have been the biggest 7-day turnaround in program history, might still be. When you think, Jack,
that's a great point.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. When you think back to the discussion that we were having literally 7 days ago at this exact moment, and the frustration and the fears for the state of the program, and then you think about it today, certainly you leave this one feeling better about the short term, but also better about the long term. I'm, for the record, tonight, whereas last week I was a little more big picture looking ahead, future years. Tonight I am more, what does this mean for the last 4 games?
Yep.
Because that's the here and now. Is they have UCLA next week, then they're off, then it's USC, Wisconsin, and Iowa, and it is home, road, home, road. That's how Nebraska now finishes the season. So the even number of home games versus the even number of road games in the Final Four. The performance that the defense put together today, and Jack, I mean, a couple of things. First of all, the clip that we ended up putting out on YouTube earlier is half of it is just you yelling, but the first half did begin with you mentioning, us talking about turnovers, takeaways. We talked about special teams making plays today. 3 field goals, 2 of them I would say of long distance for a college kicker. Those drop. Like, again, and then the defense's performance to shut down so many of these playmakers. The Ohio State running game was non-existent today.
It's insane. If you would have told me that, Josh, that's insane. That running game has not been shut down like that for years, and will not be shut down again like that, or even close to that the rest of this year. Not even close. Correct. 64 yards. If you had told me 64 yards, I would have told you to get off of drugs. 64 rushing yards.
You would have been. You wouldn't have believed it. You would not have believed it.
Quinshon Judkins, your leading rusher, with 28 yards. 29 yards. Quinshon Judkins, 29 yards.
And they did it, with, absolutely no long runs. They were completely shut down in this game, over and over and over and over. And hey man, one final thing to kind of put a bow on this initial discussion. The tackling, which was at a low point in the Tony White era 1 week ago, was, I don't know if I want to say it was at a high point, but it was really damn good. There were some shoestring tackles today that kept them from getting first downs.
Jamari Butler is he's on his way to start getting NFL buzz here at the end of this year and then into next year for sure. I think Deshaun Singleton had a big comeback game, I think, tackling wise. I mean, MJ Sherman, man, he had a good game too. It was I still can't believe they did it to that offense, right? And I mean, you can say a couple of things about the Ohio State offense. You can say their left tackle, their first round draft pick left tackle was out. Correct, he was, but there's still another first or second round draft pick on that tackle, or excuse me, on that defense playing guard. There were some portions in that game, Josh, where I was like, that offensive line has zero chance against Nebraska right now.
Yeah, for sure. Over and over and over. That
Ohio State
and over.
Offensive line, Hutmaker would just be going around. He had, I think, maybe his best game.
Hutmaker was flying around. Ty Robinson was flying around. Guys were flying around. They were making tackles. They were getting in the backfield. The run game, again, was non-existent for Ohio State's first super large stretches of today's game. Big stretches. Big stretches.
Yes.
Corey points out the tackle by Butler on the Howard scramble was
That's incredible. What I was thinking of, the shoestring tackle.
That was the one, man, where it was just, there was a shoestring tackle on Ohio State's game-winning drive, the touchdown drive even, that I remember thinking, oh my gosh, look at that stop as well. They were completely different. They were completely different than they were a week ago. And at the very least, Jack, they gave themselves a chance to win. As the offense found itself sputtering, especially early every drive that the offense was back or the defense came back on the field early, they were able to get some stops. And then Ohio State, they got a couple of scores in succession, right? Weren't those on 2 straight drives? And then immediately after that, they bowed up every time. And like they began the second half, like, you're looking at the score and you're saying, okay, interesting.
Got to get one stop. Yep.
Got to get one stop. They get the pick,
3 and out,
the takeaway, all these things. And so it was a masterful game plan. And, I'm bummed that they didn't get the victory for a variety of reasons. But one is this, man, like Ohio State is obviously a paper tiger. They were that close to essentially, being on having their last rights read to them for getting to the playoff. Like, Jack, they were that close to essentially being
great.
Like, dude, you know what I was thinking? This is such a me thing to say, but I was thinking, oh my gosh, I can't wait to listen to all the recap pods tomorrow. This is gonna be awesome. Everyone will lead with, and Nebraska pulled off the upset and knocked Ohio State out of the playoff. And instead, it didn't happen.
Before we get to the offense, like, let's talk about what the defensive performance means going forward. At every level. The ceiling of this defense is elite. We can say it now. The ceiling of this defense is elite. The problem is occasionally they don't hit the ceiling.
No.
Right?
Their floor is also pretty bad.
Their floor
is bad. The floor is lava, but the ceiling is great.
Yeah, but the ceiling of the defense is one of the best in the nation. I'm not afraid to say that after today. If you
they shut Ohio State down better than Oregon did. They shut Ohio State down better than anybody has this year.
And our theory, to the best we could figure, is, well, the kryptonite is teams that can run and pass it, fairly equally. Well, that's Ohio State, Josh, and they got there right. They got their yards on a couple of big passes, but as a whole, Nebraska was not bamboozled by that offense whatsoever. They just weren't. So I don't know, like. The Indiana game especially now just becomes even more of a mystery to me. And maybe it is that Indiana is the best team in the Big Ten. Maybe.
Riss asked me when she was cooking dinner, she goes, how would you rank the Big Ten teams right now? And my order was
Let me guess. Oregon, Indiana, Ohio State?
Nope.
What?
Oregon, Indiana, Penn State, Ohio State.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Though Penn State's losing right now to Wisconsin.
I didn't even consider Penn State, yeah.
Yeah, but that's the order that I would have it right now.
Man.
And, I've been like, this isn't a I told you so segment. I have really been buying into Indiana, and I thought today was, you want to talk about a trap moment for them with a backup quarterback, all these things.
I thought they were going to lose.
Yeah, and they play totally fine. They're going to take care of business, and they will probably go into the Ohio State game undefeated. Now, it's a different discussion for a different day, but they looked really, really good. For large stretches. And the defense, I mean, like, I want to say they did about everything you can. Of course they didn't. They went on the field like last year up, and they were unable to get a stop, and a couple of plays finally were able to break through for the Ohio State defense. And then after that, they did get 1 or 2 stops that gave Nebraska back the ball, or they for sure had that one stop. And so it's such a bummer, man, because this game, it felt like it was that breakthrough. And like, when I start thinking ahead to the next 4 games, do I like them to beat UCLA? Of course I do. Do I think they can beat Wisconsin? Of course I do. Do I think they can beat USC and Iowa? Of course I do. But it's like that idea of proof of concept and getting one of these wins and then knowing that you can do it is different than almost doing it and believing you can, but still needing that proof. And so you figure, like, can they come out with their hair on fire next Saturday afternoon against UCLA? If they play like they did today, they're going to take care of business.
The defense will be enough against UCLA.
Defense will be enough, yeah.
I mean, at some point, it's just, and maybe it's as true of all of the games, but it's like, if the offense can get 21 points, that'll probably be okay.
Yeah.
Probably going forward. Now, can they?
So.
I don't know. We'll have to talk about that. We have to talk about that. But, USC... Maybe USC is an exception to that. They put up some points a few times this year, but yeah, it's going to be about whether the offense can perform in these games. But there's obviously not one of those games of all 4. There's not one of those games where I don't think they've got a shot at winning that anymore.
No,
which I thought I might come out of today feeling like that.
Yeah. There was a world where we talked about in the pregame earlier today. If they lost by a equivalent 56-7 type score, what was the number we said? If Ohio State scores any more than 38, that it would be like a real problem. I think that was the number we threw out, and they scored basically half of that. And for the majority of the game, Jack, they scored less than half of that.
Right.
Going into the last couple of drives.
What was the score we were talking about? Somebody said, what if Nebraska loses?
I think it was 38-14 because that was a slight cover, wasn't it?
No, but there was a question like, what if Nebraska loses 21-10? Like, how would you feel? And we were all like thrilled.
Yeah. It was pretty much that, wasn't it? Yeah.
So
and that was pretty much the score. That was pretty much the score. And Nebraska got a few more points, but it was kind of in that neighborhood the entire game. It really was. Yes.
I feel the same way I did after the Purdue game where I was like, okay, the defense isn't fool's gold now. But now it's happened twice where the defense is completely lapsed inexplicably.
Yeah.
And then comes back and looks better than you could ever imagine.
The defense, I feel comfortable saying, is inconsistent. I think the defense is
But,
so they are inconsistent. I think they lean more good than bad in consistency, but they got to figure out a way to do whatever they did today, to do that every week. Now the good thing is, if we want to give Indiana flowers for like 15 more seconds, Jack, like they're not playing a team that good again. Like Indiana, is there a world, Jack, where they're the best team in the Big Ten? There is a world.
Are Indiana and Ohio State both top 5 teams? Maybe, I don't know. Like I mean. Top 10 teams, yes, I think. They're not playing any top 10 teams, that's for sure. USC
absolutely not.
USC, after losing to Maryland, who got and don't
smoked.
even try and play. And by the way, just all week, what did I say? If you think you know what a team is, you're going to find out in the next few weeks you don't. I could not believe I was right about that, and it will continue to happen in college football. As soon as you are sure about what any college football team is, you're going to be wrong. So let's quit. Can we quit that facade that you're sure about how every other game is going to go for the rest of the year? Because it changes. We've seen it again today with a whole bunch of, except Indiana, they're unbeatable.
Yeah.
Let's ask this, Josh. Obviously, let's get to the offense. People want to hear some bad things. That's why they tune us in.
You're always so triggered.
What? I'm not triggered at all. I'm just playing to what the crowd wants. Give them what they want.
Okay.
What do you need from this offense going forward? Right? They're not going to fire the play caller before the season ends. Dylan is what Dylan is, healthy, not healthy right now at this point. Like, what are we doing with this offense going forward here at this point? And was there and do you feel any differently about that now than you did a week ago?
100%. I don't know how you couldn't leave the performance today not thinking better things about the offense. I'd begin with the run game first of all. Whether it's how they were being defended or how Nebraska was able to execute. I don't know. I had a friend.
There were holes. There were holes.
And he might be hanging out with us tonight, David. If not, he'll listen probably tomorrow morning on his run. But him and I were talking about how the Ohio State ends were like crashing kind of around. And it just seemed like Nebraska's run game was almost like funneling in through the B and the C gaps. And then they were kind of going to the outside. They were able to pick up a few nice yards by doing that. So I would say at the very least, the run game, I know that in the end, like 121 yards, and that is not sack adjusted. I know that that's not like awesome. 3.7 yards per carry is not awesome, but the run game looked its best competition-wise that we have seen all year. So I would start with that. The other thing, man, and so this next opinion is kind of interesting for me because on one hand, how many throws did Dylan miss? Because they schemed some guys that were open. So you have two plays, in my opinion, in this game you want back, and neither of them are on defense or special teams. There's, of course, the goal line situation and whatever you have happen down there. We'll talk about that. It's funny because I almost want to. I guess maybe I will have a playback. Can he just return the interception for a touchdown? Because it's just like, God, that would have changed everything. Anyway,
and I think about that every time Nebraska gets a turnover.
I know.
I'm like,
you got to score. You got to score.
When Nebraska gets a fumble or an interception, the first thing I say every single time, score. Yep. That's the first thing I say.
Got to score. So I would say that was that's one of the play/drives. The other one was the one when Banks was wide open. Wide open. And that
That was a play we've been looking for all year, Josh.
Yeah, I would say, like the Lindenmeyer play was obviously a huge bummer. Schemed perfectly, great play call. Execution was almost there. I would say that this was the worst throw, though, because the Lindenmeyer one, he just barely missed him. This throw was horrible.
The Lindenmeyer throw was easier than that one, but I don't know.
Probably, yeah. So that's the thing. So it's like, okay, so to then answer, that's a long-winded way of answering a question. Like, they obviously performed at a better level. I thought they did a higher level. I thought they did things today that they had not been doing. They certainly got Dillon involved way more in the quarterback run game than we have seen all year,
which I think helped. Yeah,
it definitely helped.
I think it was huge.
I think he was also more apt to run. Like one of those long scrambles, it was a pass, and he just decided to take off. I thought that they blocked better for the majority. I mean, like the last drive of the game, they did not block very well. But yeah, so like I leave the game more encouraged, but part of that too is the defense that they played today on paper is supposed to be one of the best defenses in the entire country. Now, I don't think that they are that anymore. Like there's this Ohio State fan who listens to the Grum, who was like emailing, talking a lot of trash back in like August and September, like Ohio State, they might not give up any points going into the Oregon game. I'm like, okay, settle down, dude. Their defense is not that good, but they're still loaded with a ton of athletes, and I thought Nebraska did a really good job.
They have 4 guys who are going to be picked in the next 4 or 5 guys who are going to be picked in the next 2 years in the first or second round who played today on that defense of the NFL draft.
100%.
So, I mean, I don't like. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do going forward. Honestly, to see what their offensive line's obviously an issue.
You talking about Ohio State?
Yeah. Their offensive line.
Penn State next week and Indiana November 2.
Yeah.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it'll be fascinating to see what they do in those 2 games. But they got to get the offensive line figured out because, man, that was rough. Yeah. In terms of Nebraska's offense, yeah, I agree. Like the best thing for me today is that the running game, the tailback running game can work. Just how do we bottle that and make it keep happening? Right?
Yeah.
How did that? Dowdell had some freaking holes, right?
He did.
There was one point, there was one of those drives, I don't remember which drive it was, but I think he had like 2 or 3 10+ yard runs out of 5 plays, something like that. I think he had 2 13-yard runs in a row. Yes, I know the drive you're talking about where it was first down. That was, I think, one of the early second half drives, right? The drive that ended in the first field goal maybe of the second half. I think maybe. To make it I don't know,
9
but
point,
that was something I never have seen from this running game this year.
Yeah,
like he had more. That was the best the running games looked all. It was just a couple of plays, but that was like the best.
Yeah, because it was back to back. It felt like it was building on top of each other. Dowdell Jack finishes 14 carries, 60 yards. Emmett Johnson 8 carries, 30 yards. Meanwhile, Quinshon Junkins 10 for 29. Travion Henderson 10 for 25. So like they combined for 54, 25. And Dowdell had 60 on his own.
Wow.
In this one, he had a long of 19. Henderson had the long for Ohio State of 15. So it was Nebraska's run game was infinitely better than Ohio State's today.
But you're right. Yeah, I mean, and then obviously there's the play calling issues too. But Dillon,
are you saying something bad about Satterfield there?
Yes, I believe he's not a perfect play caller whatsoever. I've said that from the beginning. But Dillon
missed some throws.
Dillon missing some throws, man.
Yeah.
Like that's not how we expected Nebraska's offense was gonna lose games. Was missing throws, and it happened today. And
multiple times.
And I truly wonder. So we already had whatever he was dealing with before, and then the shoulder thing happens.
And then the shoulder happens before the last drive, right?
Right. They take him to the tent. They bring him back out there.
Yep.
He throws the first pass right. That's the targeting one on that drive. That's one of the
first passes. That was a great throw.
So that was a good throw. So his shoulder must have felt like good enough,
okay
right?
Enough. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good enough. And I thought maybe the screen calls had a little something to do with his shoulder, a little bit. I thought maybe they were not sure what he could do with his shoulder. And so maybe that's why they went to those screens and that. I don't know. Like, because the moment that shoulder injury happened, the way he was letting it hang, right? It looked bad.
It looked horrible. And what was odd, dude, was the replay. I look at the replay and I'm like, wow, not maybe what I would have expected.
Yeah, it didn't look terrible. It didn't look bad on the replay.
But I think he's dealt with that multiple times now this year. I think that is another reoccurring thing, along with the ankle that he's had to deal with this season. So
yeah, but I mean, I don't know. He doesn't look as confident as he looked at the beginning of the year.
How much of that is he's just not making the throws that he thinks he can, and so he's losing a little bit of confidence, and so he's I feel like when he throws it 10 to 15 to 20 yards down the field, Jack, I feel like he is aiming it instead of throwing it. A lot of us, if you play baseball as a kid, I know my dad always said,
don't aim,
throw it, don't aim it. And it felt like he was aiming it today. At least that's what I watched. It looked like a guy who, like, it's almost like you hold on to the football for like a little longer so you can let me push it right to the exact spot that I want it to go to.
It's so hard because I just don't know right now if his issues throwing, his issues of confidence is just not looking the same as he did early in the year is because of injuries or new physical limitations, or just because the first few games were against defenses that weren't as good. Like, I don't know. I can't tell. And we probably won't know exactly how much his injuries or physical limitations are impacting him, but that question is a huge one in terms of the future of the offense for the next 4 games.
It absolutely is. Yeah.
Like, and will he get better? How much is he beat up at this point? All of that. I don't know the answer. I wish I did. Like, I mean, we've talked about it in the club plenty, and you don't need to have any kind of inside information to see a week ago he was limp like crazy.
100%.
His ankle was messed up. That's just me not being a doctor. That's me watching him walk around during the course of that game. I don't think that looked as bad today. I actually saw him make a couple of cuts off that right ankle a couple of times.
Looked way better than I thought he was going to look.
Looked pretty good to be honest.
Way better than I thought he was going to look in that regard. Yeah.
Yeah, but so I don't know. I don't know where he's at health-wise, and we won't know because they're not going to say anything about it.
Well, yeah, you got to get the questions about it too, man. I still would love a few more questions in there about.
That's true. Ask a few, right?
Because I don't like doing that thing, right? Why doesn't the media ask about X, Y, or Z? I was just stunned that after the last week, he came up gimpy against Indiana. That's so this isn't I heard from a person who heard from a person. This is like. There's evidence of it happening on the field. Yeah. Our eyes told us that something. Because again, the ankle injury that he had last week, he didn't step on anything. He stepped on the ground, but he didn't step on a foot. He didn't twist itself weird. He dropped back. He moved, and his ankle got hurt. And so what's going on there? And so that is, Jack. You want to talk about the rest of the season and okay, we feel better about the defense again, especially given the offenses that they're going to play the rest of the year. I think USC will probably present the most challenges, but that's just because I still, even with the tire fire of the year, I still have a healthier amount of respect for Lincoln Riley and his crew, right? So I kind of start there.
You know what's interesting though? That USC game is going to be.
It could be the 10 o'clock game.
They go to I was going to say they go to Washington next week. I don't know what they'll do there.
And they have an idle week.
And then they have an idle, and then they play us. Yeah. But in the same sort of way that there's so much drama always around Lincoln Riley. But if they would lose that Washington game, or even if they don't, the pressure is going to be mounting inside USC too after losing that Maryland game. And I know they rebounded last night and ended up beating Rutgers, but it's another one of those where
SC and LA is a top 25 team. They definitely play way better at home this year than they do on the road. They took Penn State to the brink, and they should have won that game. And they didn't.
Maybe they look.
Hey, by the way, real quick, Jack. Speaking
they
of
turned
Penn
it
State,
over against Wisconsin like crazy.
That's true. And then they ripped off a great second half. I don't know exactly what's going on, so maybe someone in the chat could help us out. Drew Aller is standing with a towel over his head, no helmet on, and their backup quarterback is on the field leading the offense. Now, I don't know.
Shuffle pass with him.
I don't know if this is injury or because the offense wasn't doing very well. So I do not know. What's going on there. But just
they're not going to pull Aller. It's got to be an injury.
You'd figure so, right?
Yeah, they're not going to pull him.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what's going on over.
Let me ask you this question, Josh.
Okay.
The offense is what it is now, right?
Yep.
What are the strengths? What are you doing now as a play caller, as a game planner, right? And I asked this question to the chat too. What are you doing? What are your game plan? What's your game plan with this offense? Say coming into UCLA or USC or because I still don't know what it is. Like I know there's a lot of complaints about play calling, but like I want to know, like I don't know where the good plays are or the players that they should be relying on.
How about this from Corey? Not making your receivers block.
Yeah.
How about that? Can we stop? Can we stop seeing them throw the ball laterally?
Yes, let's talk about that. It's unbelievable. And Josh, it was funny. This morning we were like, well, what's often happening is that they're not even making contact and they're not even touching them. And they just get sort of run around. No, not today. That wasn't the case today, right? Banks has a dude right there and he just gets overpowered by him.
Yeah.
He just got blown. I mean, he got blown up by him. I don't get it. I don't understand. You are that big. You get your hands, you get locked up with someone.
He's a massive dude.
He's a massive freaking I don't know which cornerback or who it was he was on. Banks had the size victory won in that. And yet he got beat. I don't know. And it's like all of them too. It's all of them. There's nobody who goes Borkershire missing blocks out there. Fedoni missing blocks out there.
It's horrible.
The running backs missing blocks in pass pro and not doing. It's like every skill position player that plays regularly does not have the ability to block.
Clint says Coach Zoomer is clearly not motivating them. I haven't heard that nickname for him. That's pretty funny. They suck out there. Jack, I feel like they could have 3 receivers on one defensive back, and somehow the defensive back would still break through fairly easily and make the tackle. Every single time.
And all of those freaking plays are not. I'm not talking about screens, but I'm talking about quick passes and it's often an RPO to a wide receiver where it's like, okay, and that was the play where Banks got run over, right? Or I can't remember what it was. Was that a handoff to Barney or something where he was going in motion like a jet sweep action? I don't remember what the play was, but they're all. I mean, it's the one thing that's got to happen to make those plays work is that first block.
It really is.
Receiver.
It's like without that, you're not going to get any yards.
It's the key to the play. And I was thinking about this, like how many freaking yards and points has Nebraska lost by not making a single block on the edge in various plays throughout the year? I bet it is 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. Or if they got a penalty on it. It's probably more than that if you count penalties.
When you start adding in penalties, it's going to climb even higher. Yeah. It's not great, man.
It's a major problem, and it's such a unique, weird problem. Like it's not one that I've thought about all that much. And it obviously if you're regular running, you're trying to get your kind of non-traditional running game going, but you can't. You're trying to do that because you're trying to have the defense quit focusing, obviously, right, on the interior running game. And you kind of do it just to do it. But if you can't ever get that block, then it's just not going to work.
Today was the first time. I know that the traditional run game only got about, 70, 80 yards. But, man, today was the first time in a while that I felt like the traditional run game could still have success. I don't know what it was that the backs were doing differently because I thought that we talked about it this morning. I think that there have been holes every single game. It's just the running backs aren't running to them. Today felt like the first time that the backs were actually getting where they needed to go.
The holes were where they were supposed to be. I don't think the backs did anything.
That's true too. But man, it did look like we joked about it this morning how bad the every player really is at breaking tackles. I thought that they did a solid job at avoiding contact, breaking a couple of tackles, getting some yards. It still isn't what you would.
They were fine. They were fine. Yeah,
they were fine. That's a good way to describe it.
It was the blocking that was sometimes this offensive line, Josh, it's streaky. They will run block really well
Well, you mentioned those 2 plays earlier that they had great success on back-to-back plays.
They did that against Rutgers too. They had like a little section of that game, right, when they had Mazuka and they were running that big formation with Mazuka in there. And I remember watching. I think I tweeted it out. I was like, "This run blocking is sexy." Like they will They will do it every once in a while on the offensive line. Like the line, I'm starting to come around to what I don't know if you said it this morning, you said it before, that they're getting a little bit of a bad rap this season.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you want me to rank my issues with the offensive line, I just wouldn't start there. I would not start with Donovan Raiola. Again, that's not a he's been awesome. It's just no, there are other issues that are bigger than him right now.
Yeah.
But I know that I'm also not, I'm not an offensive line guru, but I do think that they are doing solid. And I watch the receiver blocking. I think that's way worse than what's happening with the offensive line. And I think the running backs, over the course of the whole year have been way worse too.
I saw a couple plays where Gatula looked freaking fantastic against an Ohio State defensive end.
Yeah.
Like it's nuts. But the question still remains, how do you play to this offense's strengths, whatever they are? And I still can't understand why just the regular downfield passing game that we see from team after team. I've got games on here. I'm seeing it now. Just a regular downfield. You've got a good quarterback. Let him drop back. You've got good receivers and find them open, give multiple options. Why you can't do that with Nebraska? Like, why does the pass game feel so freaking hard all the time? Right? Like you've got not a terrible offensive line, which we were just talking about. Got a quarterback who's capable. You've got multiple receiving options who are capable. Why doesn't it ever look normal in terms of a drop back passing game? And it goes to the question too of the screen passes, right? In the final drive. Like, why is everyone so it never does look like a regular drop back passing attack, which it could and should be, right?
What do you mean by that?
There just aren't very many plays. So an example of one that was a play like this that I'm talking about was the one where where Ja'Cory Barney was doing kind of the drag route and he got held a little bit and they didn't call it. And that
was rough.
But where is a play like that ever before?
Yeah.
Just pattern where you've got patterns on multiple parts of the field, deep, right, shallow, sideline. Dylan can drop back. He's actually in the pocket. You've got the running back, right, stand back and protecting a little. It just doesn't ever look like a normal passing attack to me. That is what it should be. If we're going with this quarterback, that's eventually what it's got to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what this personnel is designed to be, and it never looks like it. And I don't understand it. And I think Satterfield is reluctant to go to it because he doesn't believe in it, right? And so he'll go to the.
I don't think they trust the receivers.
Is it the receivers, or do they think Dylan's hurt, or is it they think he's going to get the pressure is going to be too much?
I mean, Jack,
what is the reluctance?
Even before he got hurt, don't you feel like it was? We kept commenting on like, wow, look at how great these throws are. These are ridiculous throws. But don't you think that the throws had to be ridiculous because the receivers, either the routes weren't very good or the scheme wasn't very good in terms of getting them open? There was one route today. Okay. It was was it Barney? They showed a replay, a high end zone look, and he's coming towards the camera. And they were like, look at the defensive back. He really did a good job of kind of forcing him out. Do you remember this pass? He threw it deep, and it just kind of landed in the middle of the end zone. There was nobody there. Barney, it was supposed to be a post, and he just kind of ran I don't even know how to describe what he did. Maybe that's it.
Well, and
so,
obviously
that happens too often.
On the last interception, obviously Nair and Dylan thought I thought you were going to do one of these, right? Dylan thought, but Josh, I just want to see, there's run the ball guy. Like, I want to see him running up the middle. I want to see Dylan Raiola freaking dropping back in a traditional play and having multiple receiving options and letting him pick from them. Where is that?
Yeah.
Like, where is the bread and butter passing game in this offense? It's never there. And so you people
because they don't have one. They don't have a bread and butter.
They don't. Is there a reason they don't? Like, is there a reason
again, I think the answer is partly the coaching, and I think partly the scheme, and partly the receivers. I think that there are
too cute. They try and do a million freaking different things. Let him drop back, right? And I hope you have every other college team that passes the ball and has a good passing quarterback has a freaking million plays like this, where you go wide and you got 4 possible receivers or 5 possible receivers. You want to know why Fedoni doesn't get involved? That's why. He's not involved in any of these things.
No, he's not. And he had a couple nice catches again today too.
JP is like, LOL, Jack. Is there a reason we keep saying the reason? What? I'm sorry. Am I missing something?
I think people keep mentioning Satterfield.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, maybe that's it. He just doesn't. I think there's a reason he's reluctant to do it, Josh. I mean, I do. I do think there's a reason he's reluctant to do that.
To do what?
To use the kind of traditional passing attack that I'm talking about. But like, I think he is concerned. I'm not sure exactly what it is. That was the question I asked to start this whole discussion, right? Mm-hmm. Is it concern about that they don't think the offensive line is going to protect him? Is it concern about being too averse to turnovers, right? And they've done this many times, Josh. Like, they want to be a low-risk offense. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, D'Lo says, how did they have more confidence in downfield passing last year?
100%.
I was happy that they actually pushed the ball down the field a little bit today. At least they tried. Like, yeah. I hate that. I mean, they still did a lot of stuff that was, by the way, around the line of scrimmage, but like, at least they tried to push the ball down the field a little bit. Just to be clear, today.
I am legitimately critiquing the play calling here, right? It's like the argument. The argument has never been the play calling is perfect. I just want you guys to figure out some more things to talk about.
You're arguing with somebody. You're arguing with someone that's not me right now. You're doing it. I'm doing it.
Yep. All right. There was one comment in there that got me a little. Yep. That got me a little. Like, I don't know the reason. No, you're right. It is. I would like, but that's not the usual critique of Satterfield, by the way.
Right? Again, you just did it again. You just veered back into the other critiques of Satterfield. I don't know what you're talking about. Is it that he doesn't run the ball enough? Is that the critique?
Well, yeah, that's part. Well, I mean, part of it was we haven't even played. We can talk about the play at the goal line still as well. It's usually down to random play calls, but I just don't understand. And maybe it is Satterfield why I'll call it the bread and butter passing offense is not more of a go-to in this offense. I don't get it.
I mean, I certainly would say, yeah, it's probably the guy. You know,
okay, maybe it is. Maybe it is, but
hey, Jack, hey, in all seriousness, like. Okay, so we mentioned Tiny Baby Boy. You mentioned Garrett McGuire. I don't think that any of us are going to say that we're huge Barthel fans. Then there is the offensive line coach who, you know, the kindest thing that we can say about his group right now is they're not as bad as some people think they are. So that is a coordinator, a position coach, and that's not even mentioning Glenn Thomas, who we kind of don't like. We don't really have any feels on this guy because he's barely been at Nebraska and he also has a 5-star quarterback. So it's like, how much do we give him credit versus not give him credit? So like, I mean, Jack, we just mentioned 3 coaches. One of them's a coordinator, 2 other assistants, and maybe another assistant coach on offense. So like, I feel like the answer to this question of like, why don't they have bread and butter? I feel like it's obvious and easy. And it's just like, they don't have good coaching, full stop on that side of the ball. Forget about Satterfield. Up and down the group, the kindest thing we can say about the offensive line coach is they're not as bad as you think they are. That's pretty wild, man, when you look at it from that perspective.
No, it's true. It's true. And maybe that is completely the reason, but it seems so obvious to me, like that they just never try it, right?
Yeah. Matt says, can we start getting the knives out for McGuire more? And Carney says, oh, yes, I love veal. That's funny. Very, very, very well played.
Kind of a
very, very, very well played.
Well, see, like when we talk about the wide receivers not blocking, that's where I go with that, right?
100%, man. And again,
and the players themselves. I mean, come freaking on. I mean, geez,
dude. Again, I want somebody to find the play that I'm thinking of right now. I believe the play with Barney where he ran the bad route was around. It might have been right after or right before the Banks play, but maybe it wasn't. But dude, it was, I was pissed. Like just watching the route, I was angry because it's like Joe Klatt is setting it up as he's going to try to run a post, but the defensive back is going to keep him from being able to run the post. But that's not true. I mean, it was just, you know how it's supposed to have like a sharp edge to it? You're supposed to run and you're supposed to cut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he didn't. It was like this weird rounded, oh my gosh.
They call plays like, they call plays like they don't trust Dylan Raiola a lot of times. If you think about it,
well, again, to go back to the shoulder, you know, to go back to the shoulder and what the hell, to go back to the ankle, to go back to all of these things.
Right.
And he already, like Jack, I was talking with somebody yesterday about Dillon and like the injury and how much it isn't affecting him. And this person, this is not wrong, pointed out his footwork has always been bad. His footwork is, this person made a comparison to like when Brett Favre played, how a lot of quarterbacks tried to be like Brett Favre and do goofy shit. Well, now the same thing is happening with Mahomes, and like forget about all of the comparisons of Dillon to Mahomes. It's just more people see him, quarterbacks see him, and they want to play like
emulate
him.
that.
Yeah, and
kind of loose, right?
Got it, very loose.
Throwing it like that, yeah.
Dude, his footwork. Go back and watch the UTEP. It's never been good. But I feel like it's exasperated now with what's happening. Because he's not stepping into throws properly, and so his feet are all. I mean, there was one throw he had. I wish I could remember the quarter it was in. But live, I was like, I don't think he moved his feet. I think they stood in place. And I don't even think, Jack, that he was kind of, like you're supposed to be square to everything. I think his feet they weren't turned towards the receiver. They were almost turned parallel with the offensive line. And so I think that happens too often.
Maybe.
Right now.
There's something they don't trust about him. I don't know if it's physical or their turnover averse or what it is.
I mean, Jack, he still threw the ball 32 times.
Yeah.
And how many sacks did they get against him, too? He dropped back probably 37 times today. Like, that's trusting him enough.
It's true. Maybe. Do you not get that feeling that they really don't trust?
Not as much as you do.
Okay.
I mean, I guess if you want to talk about why they're not throwing the ball down the field. Also, I think Wisconsin just threw a pick six.
Yeah, pick six.
Nice. I maybe. I mean, but they also haven't really been ripping the ball downfield like at all this year.
Right.
So I don't think.
All right, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Satterfield's doing a great job. I guess you're right.
Well played. Well played. That was a joke. See, sometimes people make jokes and then other people laugh at those jokes. It's very fun. We're having a great time.
The passing game doesn't look like I expected it to. That's it.
No.
Somebody
said earlier Nebraska wins the game with UTEP Dillon, and I think that's a very good thing to say. I think that person's spot on.
Yeah, and what's different? Is that a physical difference?
Definitely. I mean, there's some physical stuff going on, I think, for sure. And they're not playing UTEP, which is like one of the worst teams in the entire country.
I'm still, and I'm going to be honest, I am still frustrated as I'm ripping the offensive coordinator. I'm still frustrated with if you're going to use Harberg, freaking do it.
Hey, dude, let's talk about this. Commit to it.
Commit to it.
How many carries did he have?
Don't dick around with putting him at tight end, which they did, right? They put him at tight end, and then they put him at running back at one point. Quit dicking around with that. Let him be the quarterback occasionally when you're in likely run situations, right? And then has he been in on a play at quarterback, Josh? Has he touched a ball on a play at quarterback?
He's handed it off?
Where he's either handed it off or passed it ever?
Don't think so.
That's the entire reason you do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Is the entire reason you do that is because that's a threat.
100%.
At some point, they've got to set that up with him.
Do it. If you're going to do it, if JP says decommit to it. Hey, that's fair too. D'Lo says if we're going to do it, freaking do it. Yeah, that's the thing.
100%.
Do it. If you're going to run those plays, run those plays. It was so funny, man. The play that he carried it, he had one carry today, -4 yards. When he took that snap, I thought it was Dillon because like, oh man, why is Dillon doing a quarterback keeper? And then it was like, oh, that was Harberg? What the hell? Like that was a bad play. Really not good. Really not good.
I don't care if they do it or not. There might be something there. There might not. But if you're going to do it as putting him at quarterback and make the defense think he might pass it or hand it off. So there are 3 threats with him, right? Him running, him giving it to someone else, him passing the ball. That's why you do. That is the only. You don't do it because he's such an elite athlete, okay? Let's be totally honest about this, right? He's not unstoppable as an athlete. You do it because he brings one more thing for the defense to think about.
Thank you.
But for them ever to do it, you've got to do that at some point.
You actually
got to have a little bit of consistency.
You can't. Can't do. And look, Jack. Maybe this is a long con, and against Iowa, they're going to bring him in. He's finally going to throw it.
Honestly, I bet that's what it is. Honestly,
they're certainly setting it up. Like you can't continue to bring him in, but you got to do more plays. If you're going to do it, do it. Try to get him into a bit of a rhythm.
Do a couple in a row.
Yeah,
do a couple in a row.
Yeah, there was the moment. Oh, it was the first in goal when they get the interception, and John tweeted about it. Like that would have been a great opportunity. Quick change, come on the field,
Right.
put in your running quarterback, do something. Maybe you could have him just be a battering ram. Maybe you roll him out. Maybe you do like a little step forward, drop back, and throw it, like anything.
Run a zone read where he's kept it 3 times, and then next time he pulls it out, and it's a pass option for him. Like, that's how you use that.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think they are. Honestly, they love
Which is embarrassing because, like, that's not –
they love
playing it's not worth it.
I mean, they set up that Lindemeyer play for like 3 games.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. That's definitely true.
Freaking missed.
Corey says, I know we haven't gone 55 minutes without talking about the pride of Lincoln Southwest, John Holt.
That's totally fair.
True.
Totally
you want to
shout out to that guy. Shout out to everybody on the field goal team.
The reason that they were the snaps were still pretty bad. But the reason
were they? I didn't even notice that.
They were high every single. They were high.
Shout out Buschini.
Every time, high and in. Oh, and how about Buschini's first punt? Good
God.
Oh my God. Anyway, dude, they are not in this game, obviously, without his kicking. And the fact that he was able to Furl says, legit asking, has Nebraska found their kicker? Furls, I'll do you one better.
Yes.
Albano's not playing this year. Albano is out. He is hurt.
Dude.
So like he is done. He is not going to play this year. Put it on the list. Get the eggs. There's no chance that he's going to do it. The fact, Jack,
why would you now?
Well, and again, he can't kick right now. 54-yard field goal. This wasn't just like, they found the guy to make a 22-yarder. That's not a game changer if that's real. If that's real moving forward.
It's not only that, they looked effortless.
They did. Yeah, especially the 54-yarder. He kicked the shit out of the ball.
And they looked so good.
Yeah.
It was such an unexpected pleasant thing, which we get so of very often.
Really was.
But those kicks looked great. They weren't too high. Like the way he kicked it, this is getting way too romantic about field goals. I get it. But like the way he kicked it, Josh, made them look like they were shorter field goals than they actually were in some ways.
Because he kicked the crap out of it. Yeah, he reminded me of Dallas Cowboys legend Brandon Aubrey and what he's been able to do throughout the year.
Jury duty guy?
Jury duty guy. Hopefully he doesn't miss a field goal tomorrow versus the Niners.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was great today, man. And like again, they would not have had the opportunity they did.
And by the way,
to win this game,
if they've got that also, honestly, I don't want to underplay this. That really changes the way I think about the next 4 games, big time.
Oh yeah, dude. How many times have we had to have conversations about the end of the season, and we're like, oh man, 1-score games.
How many freaking field goals are going to be in the Iowa game? Right?
Yeah. Oh, that cold, dark night, Black Friday, and
there was a moment where I thought I was like, I wanted them to go for it when they did the dive, but I was like, I don't know. The way this game is going, like continuing to just to stop them and then do just enough to get a field goal, like maybe you just go win this thing 15-14.
Interesting. You're the first person that I've heard, bring this up, and I definitely don't think that they made the wrong decision. You have to.
I don't either.
You're right. I mean, in the end, you're right. Clint says, "Is Nick Grimm going to hit his 7 field goals?" So, Jack, we did a thing after the Purdue game. How many field goals will Nebraska make for the rest of the year? Nick picked 7, and we all made fun of him because for 3 weeks they didn't even make a field goal, and now they made 3. So, shout out Nick Grimm. Maybe Nick will actually be the person who has that number right. Definitely did not see that coming.
Yeah, but there's no way Wisconsin and Iowa, as Wisconsin lines up to kick a field goal, there's no way those games aren't going to be field goals aren't going to play huge into those games. So
100%.
Honestly, get him a couple more. Frankly, get him. Hopefully, he gets a couple more against UCLA, gets comfortable, does a couple against USC. I want to see more field. I mean, I want to see touchdowns, but I want to see him continue to have this chance. But man.
Again, if this is real, Jack, it changes the calculus.
It changes the way that you think about the rest of the year. It's that big because it's the Big Ten, right?
Yeah.
It's the Big Ten in November.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk while we are talking about offensive play calling. Can we talk for a minute about we both agree they shouldn't have taken the field goal, that going for it was the right thing. But what in the freak what a weird thing to have in a year where on 2 different plays during the season, the thing that you did wrong was send in a play or the player decided to jump too early or too far away from the goal line to score a touchdown. That's what happened today with Dante Dowdell. That's what happened with Carter Nelson when they did it. Why are we so excited to get these guys jumping in the air? What's going on? Help me.
You ready for my take?
Yeah.
I'm just not bothered by it that much like everybody else is.
Really?
I mean, what do you want him to do? Batter into the line and not gain a single
yard?
You
bring in freaking Ty Robinson to lead block for him. Ty never even touches anyone because he jumps in the air so damn fast. Why are we bringing Ty in? Go behind, get your hand on Ty's ass and run into the end zone.
Yeah, I wish I could muster up frustration like everybody else. I am like not bothered by this whatsoever.
You don't think that was weird that he tried to dive from too far away and
he almost scored. His other arm where the ball was across the goal line. He almost scored.
Why are we diving? Why are we diving?
Because he knows that they're not getting the push in up front, and so he dude, didn't they dive on the other touchdown? Didn't Dowdell dive over the over?
He did, and it was
touchdown?
That's the other thing about this is
they were a little closer on that one. Is that what you're going to say?
The other thing about this is they misspotted the ball. Believe it or not, the refs, because Lloyd had a catch before that, right? He almost scored. He didn't score. His knee was down. He was about the 2 foot line, which was very clear on replay. They initially spotted it there, and then
it's the LSU game. Sorry.
Rule even said this. They pushed it back. They respotted it wrong.
Yeah,
and they put it back another yard. I think they sent the play in thinking they were at the 2 foot line, but they were actually at the 2 yard line, which is a different play call in that situation. And once again, that spot completely screwed. Like, if they ran it from the play the spot was supposed to be, they would have scored. You're right. He was close to scoring anyway because it was designed to go 2 feet, not 2 yards.
Yeah. Anyone says if Dylan pulls it, he walks into the left.
That's
dude,
true too.
Not to do the whole. Here's what I said in the moment, but I literally, as they lined up, because you saw the way in which they overloaded to the right side and the defense didn't have a whole lot of guys on the left. I said to my friend David, I said, they should do a bootleg here. And they obviously ended up not doing that. And it's a bummer because there was a lot of space over there.
Man.
So,
all right. Well, that's one more for me. Not liking what Sadie did that Josh does. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, you're always mad because you feel like you're on an island, even though like many people are agreeing with you. This is one where I know, because I saw everyone bitching about that play today. And I'm just like, I get it. I understand, like you want to jump over everybody and try to score. My concern would be he jumped too soon, but why am I going to get mad at the guy who can't break tackles for wanting to try to clear?
I'm starting to be afraid they're going to be at the 10 yard line and they're going to find the guy who had the best long jump on the team, and they're going to try and dive in from the 10 yard line at some point.
Well, the funniest part about this is like you brought up the Carter Nelson one, and I always love discussing that series because you're like, I want to see more creativity, and then they do like these weird creative things, and you're like, nah, never mind. I don't like this creativity. Can you just do the normal boring stuff, please? Satterfield can't win with people like you, Jack. You want creativity. You want boring.
I'm hard on him, Josh.
Yeah,
I'm hard on my offensive coordinators. I want him. He's got to get better. He's got to get better, or they've got to make a change. It's what I've been saying for a long time.
You have been saying it. Yeah, Corey, I noticed there's no bitching about the Dowdell jump that worked.
Because it was from the right appropriate distance.
Interesting.
Listen, I should not have to break this down for anyone. There's an appropriate distance to dive from.
Interesting.
And it ends sometime around 2 yards and further out.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I feel like there were more dive plays like that in the 80s and 90s than there are now.
Bring back the dives. Bring back diving over
the jumping dive.
Yeah, because then fans like you started getting mad at the players for it, and so they're like, we probably need to stop this, or else they're going to tweet at us and get in our mentions.
Big Red Easy says, have you guys talked about the play where we had to take a timeout when the ref didn't give us the first? Insane.
You're talking about this is near the end of the game,
into the first half. Into the first half.
Oh,
Josh, I've seen some bad,
incompetence.
Incompetent officiating before that I've pointed out many, many times.
Horrible.
I don't think I've ever seen anything like that.
Horrible, absolutely horrible. That was ridiculous. Because when they got the first, the clock is still running, and I'm like, what is happening? Stop the damn clock! And then they mark him short, and everyone is flabbergasted. Pereira is losing his mind.
He was like, and what happened? Here's what happened, which is what happened was he was looking at an offensive lineman thinking he had the ball.
Yeah, Fedoni was over there too. Just ridiculous shit, man. What the? what the hell? How does that happen? How does that happen?
And then here's what I don't understand. So Rule calls the timeout. How is there not a review after that?
He called the timeout after they ran a play. They had run a play, and then he called the timeout, didn't he? Isn't
really?
that what happened?
I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure that they ran another play.
I thought the timeout was right after that.
Because remember, they ran the play, and then they got the first down, and then they called the timeout. So they couldn't review it by that point in time because they ended up getting the first down. They already gained the yards.
Oh, okay. I thought he called the timeout to get the review. So my bad.
Yeah.
Well, regardless.
Because if he would have done that, then they would have gotten the review. They would have overturned it, and Nebraska would have gotten their timeout back. So very sad.
But the clock it kept running though.
Yeah. Thank God they made the field goal that drive, huh?
Yeah, which is probably what they were going to get anyway. So in the end, hopefully, I mean, had they had a minute, who knows? Maybe they would have tried to score on that one. But there was that. I mean, the pass interference was just the pass interference stuff.
Yeah, pretty weak.
On that very first play, right, with Nair and the review that they had with that. Like, I thought they were probably going to say he didn't catch it, but not to call interference on that one was frustrating. They missed that hold on Barney, and they didn't that was a huge hold on that one. He got under his shoulder pad, and they pulled him back 2 steps.
Yes.
It was they missed the hold on their tackle who is never going to play again probably. But that left tackle, because I can't remember who the defender was, probably Butler or somebody, where he headlocked him and tackled him by his head.
That was was one in the early part of the game, right?
Some of the pictures of that looked like the Eric Crouch thing. They were so bad. They were so bad. Josh right, Jack wrong, water wet. That. He's agreed with me all day. I'm not even triggered. He's agreed with almost everything.
I know you guys are best buds. You guys should have a podcast.
That was just a factual mistake, so that's all right.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
No,
but they were horrible. They were very, very bad.
That holding was insane, and they missed other holdings too. But geez,
yeah,
frustrating, and all that. Imagine Nebraska didn't have to deal with that the entire game. Oh, and it was so freaking. Then Ohio State gets a targeting penalty. By the way, what did you think of that call on the targeting for Ohio State?
So let me find the tweet from Bishop, because I thought he nailed it to the best degree. Where I think they got literally everything wrong. I think they got every single part. Yes. So he goes, I think this entire sequence is a microcosm of the day for Big Ten football referees. I'm not sure they got anything right. And so he goes, in my opinion, it was not targeting, no fumble. I thought it was a fumble. So I thought it was not targeting. It was a catch. It was a fumble. It shouldn't have been a sideline warning, though. It should have been a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on Ryan Day. So they screwed up literally everything with that entire situation.
So you think Ohio State should have had the ball?
I think Ohio State should have had the football. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I wouldn't have liked the way they explained it. It looked like it was right on the line for a targeting call, but I thought maybe there was I didn't know on the possession rules if he had it long enough.
I thought he took like 2 or 3 steps. I thought he took plenty of steps. Corey says, so when we called the timeout, now this is this let's see, I'm trying to figure out. This is the drive before this drive when Ohio State has the ball. When we called the timeout on the play, they had an injury. Would the clock have started when they spotted the ball? Is that why we were stuck with the timeout? Yeah. Rule talked about this earlier, and I kind of forget now what he said. But how I interpret it, you know what play we're talking about here, Jack?
No, I don't remember this.
Okay, so the drive before, Ohio State has the football. Nebraska takes 2 timeouts on that drive, and they get the ball back with 3-4 minutes or whatever it was. So they call a timeout, Nebraska does, after the first down play for Ohio State. But in the midst of that, one of their players was injured. The lineman, the backup left tackle, was injured. And so a lot of people were thinking, oh, Nebraska's going to get their timeout back. They did not get their timeout back. The way I understood the rule, though, was Ohio State did a running play. So, and the injury happened outside of the 2-minute timeout, outside of the 2-minute period. If an injury happens inside of the 2-minute period, then you do have to use your timeout. But because it happened outside of it, the clock, they would have just wound it. And so Nebraska kept the timeout on the field because they still wanted the clock stopped. I think that's how I understand everything that happened there. I think.
All right. Interesting.
So, Yeah. I wasn't as bothered by them taking the timeouts as early as they did. I know a lot.
Yeah,
of people
I didn't. I
by
wasn't either. I wasn't but I was so wrapped up in everything else. I might not.
Yeah,
have
you know, part of it
had
for
a
me,
clear
Jack, was
mind.
I wasn't thinking like they need to save timeouts in case they get a second offensive drive. Like I just wasn't. I don't know. I wasn't thinking about it from that perspective. But maybe I'm an idiot. I don't know.
Let me not finish necessarily. We got some time left, but let me put this thought out there. Like I talked to, or I saw some people here on Discord today. They're like, I can't watch any more football today. I'm so right afterwards, there were people super upset. And I just wasn't like, and that's pretty uncharacteristic of me.
I'm stunned that you're like in a good mood. I'll be honest.
And part of it is what I've said. Like I couldn't have ever expected that. They performed so much better than I ever dreamed they would. I think that plays into it. But you know what the other thing is about it, Josh? They scored that touchdown. Even when they scored that, they got the touchdown and the dive by Dowdell. And I didn't think there was any chance they were going to win that game when that happened. And they had the lead, right? I didn't think there was any chance. And it wasn't, me thinking badly of them. It was just being so ingrained, the routine of this in my head, that I figured Ohio State was going to go right down and score, and Nebraska would get the ball back, and they would then not be able to do anything. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Like I was so mentally prepared for that it didn't have a huge impact on me in some ways.
Interesting.
And sure enough, it freaking happened. And isn't that something? Once again, Josh, the defense plays almost, it's unfair to say like no hit ball, but two hit ball against Ohio State the entire game.
Gave up some early runs.
The second half
was pretty settled down the entire time.
In the second half, they basically played no hit ball. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, the final drive comes, and then what do you know? Ohio State's offense figures it out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is.
Wisconsin did it. Maryland did it. Iowa I'm talking about last year.
Yep.
Minnesota did it.
Yeah, 4 games last year.
All 4 teams. I don't even know what that is. The defense plays elite the entire game, and then that drive comes, and they can't do it.
And the worst part of it was, like, how easy that drive ended up looking. Like, that was the bummer. It's like they didn't even make them sweat. They did not make them sweat.
I honestly
on that
think
drive.
Part of it is offenses run differently when they have to score quickly. And our
they do.
Doesn't.
They do, man. We see this, when the Eagles played the Falcons on Monday Night Football back in week 2, they instead of, like, when they decided to settle for a field goal instead of going for it, and a lot of people that cover the league were like, that's actually bad for Philadelphia because now the Falcons knew they had to be aggressive and they could not be conservative. And Nebraska, while they were up by 3, so in theory, Ohio State still could have settled for a field goal, they finally got out of whatever funk they were in, and they called some better plays. And then you know what's funny, Jack? When they got the ball back the next time, they went right back to shitty play calling. Like my friend David, he was like, dude, you imagine how mad their fans are, right? And they booed them. They booed them on that drive, on the drive where Nebraska got the ball back, because their play calling was so uninspiring in that moment. But I mean, let's go back to the original point. Nebraska's defense, I imagine you have the play chart up. What they did to begin the second half was magnificent. It was great. It was great work because they got to take away in 2 or 3 3-and-outs in there.
Yeah. So Ohio State gets the ball after Nebraska scores, goes ahead, right? And this is I have the wrong one here. Where am I? The fourth quarter? Is this the play? Yeah, the 10:47. No, sorry, I'm having a hard time doing something very easy. You would think is finding the right end of the second quarter. I'll figure it out. I can't read this freaking ESPN. The score doesn't seem right. Okay,
Here, I've got
it now. I've got it now. All right. So Nebraska went because Ohio State got here it is. All right, the touchdown. So first play, 37-yard pass.
Yeah. Boom. Right away, they finally have success. Right away.
Go from the 25 to the 38.
38. They're already they're not in field goal range just yet, but they're getting close.
But then I forgot there was a 4th down on that, and they passed.
I know.
D'Lo just mentioned forgot about that play.
They did that quick little rollout because when they take the snap, I said out loud, "Oh my gosh, they're gonna throw it," because I thought they were.
That was such a ballsy call.
Joe Klatt was like, what are they doing? I want them to line up in the I formation, but they're lined up in the shotgun right now.
That's right. And I forgot about that. And they got Igbuka for, it was like just a 3-yard pass. And first I said to him, I was like, that was such a ballsy play there.
It was a great call. They put Will Howard on the move, and they got him rolling.
He was actually a little covered too. It wasn't even wide open. It like, oh god, that makes me frustrated now to see that again. Then they got a Judkins. So then by then they're at the 26. Judkins 7-yard run. Howard got the 10-yard scramble where he should have scored, but he just tripped. And then they hit Judkins on the pass for the touchdown.
Yeah,
but it's really that 37-yard pass was the big.
Yeah, D'Lo points it out, Jack. It was the first down of the entire half. Here's what they did on the drives before that. They went 3 and out, gaining 7 yards. One play, and that was intercepted. They had another 3 and out where they gained 8 yards. They had another 3 and out where they gained 8 yards. And then so think about that. At that point, they'd run 10 plays for 20-something yards. And then they put together that drive where they go right down the field.
It was so reminiscent of last year.
Yep. Yeah.
And somebody pointed out, actually, Rutgers could have done that this year, and Nebraska stopped them. So that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
They did that, but man, just one last stop or one last score. They had both opportunities in this game. It's the same old thing.
Yeah,
one last stop.
And Jack, the bummer about that is I certainly, and I'm guessing you're the same way, I trust the defense more. I would rather, and this is an obvious statement, I'd rather the defense have the lead than the offense have to come back. But
100%.
Because you have the lead, obviously.
Because once they scored, I was like, oh my gosh, the offense is not. I didn't know what Dylan's status was. I did not feel good about.
But again, and the problem with the offense in these situations is always like, and it happened early. Let me go back to the play-by-play chart. So Nebraska, when they get the field goal to make it 7-3, 10 plays, 54 yards. So it's like really, really, really difficult to go 54 yards in 10 plays, and then they kick a field goal. And then the very next drive, Ohio State scored a touchdown in 4 plays, 75 yards, 4 plays. And I felt the same way when Nebraska took over trailing, because it's like all that work. They've done all this work. Defense, lights out, gets a takeaway, 3 and outs across the board. They're doing everything they can. Offense is like scratching and clawing their way into a touchdown or into a field goal. And then Ohio State takes the lead, and it's like, now you got to do it again. And it's so freaking
you're
difficult.
Exactly right.
And
you got to do it one last time.
And not to turn this into the 4 to 6 yards per play thing, but like the ultimate fallacy of that whole discussion is 4 yards per play means more margin or less margin of error because there's more plays, because you have to be consistent for a longer period of time. Why does Matt Rule want them to be able to break a 70-yard run? Not because you'd score. I mean, that's a part of it. But because there's less margin of error, or because you or more margin of error. I keep saying it backwards. It just gives you so many other opportunities, because if you're able to do that, if you're able to get these large chunks, that means you don't have to deal with 8 other plays where you could do something wrong. And Nebraska, when they get the ball back, it was just like, all right, here you go again. Can you do another one of these drives? And in that moment, they didn't need a field goal. They needed a touchdown. A field goal would have put them behind still.
When those drives work in games that you watch, what's one thing that is characteristic of it? Tempo, right?
Tempo, yeah, for sure.
Rhythm. Long-ass review, right? The long-ass review on that. And it's like, let's see Dylan with tempo at some point, right?
Yep.
And do the thing that everyone does to us, because in theory, if we just said, well, part of the reason Nebraska's defense is a harder time stopping that is because the offense looks different in a 2-minute drill. Well, it'd be nice if that were true about our offense too, but it wasn't today. And the screen, and the screen pass calls, right? They were, why he did it twice, I don't know. Like the first one, they must have thought Ohio State was coming with the pressure against Dylan there. Like they must have been really, I don't know what it was, but instead they had that 0 just sit back almost like he was a spy, and he made both plays. And the offensive line looked, the first screen, watch that first screen again if you ever get a chance. The one that of the 2 that didn't work.
Yeah.
And try and figure out what the offensive line's doing on it.
Okay.
And then watch the second one and watch Bryce Benhart sort of trot down the field and never touch anyone.
Yeah. And what year is he again? What year is Bryce Benhart again, man?
Yeah, like
can't have that shit from your leaders.
You got 0 for Ohio, making both Ohio State making both of those plays. Nobody ever touched him on either play, but you had guys available to touch him. Like those could have been. I mean, I think the way they envisioned them, they were going to be big plays, obviously, because they thought that he was going to be coming in and you were going to have a convoy going down the side.
Corey says Benhart makes me sad. Yeah, seriously, man. Yeah.
Jordan says, I think Dylan checked into some of those. Maybe
a lot of people have had that theory today. I've seen that many times throughout the day because, before he snaps it, he's talking to him.
I don't know. Maybe he did.
They give him control. I don't know either, but
I don't really know, but super frustrating. Super freaking frustrating.
Oh, Dave says, what is the longest throw Raiola has completed in the last month?
That's a great question. That wasn't a pass interference.
Yeah. Wow.
Let's see.
I'm trying to even figure out the fastest way to. Okay, here we go. I can tell you. Okay, so here are his longs in each game, and I'm going to go in order of games. So UTEP 59, Colorado 36, and he had 59, 44. Here is now into the end of September into October 27, 36, 28, 33.
That's insane.
Yeah. He is now stuck on 9 touchdown passes. He has 0 touchdowns and 5 picks in the last 3 games.
And I'm going to guess at least
9 and 6.
I'm going to guess at least one of those 30+ ones was some little shuffle pass to
the Rutgers. I'm pretty sure the long against Rutgers is the screen pass.
Yeah, or
the one to Ramir, right?
Man, I would have never guessed in my wildest dreams, Josh, when Dylan Raiola came here, that he wasn't just going to rear back and just throw that ball freaking to Wahoo. Like, I would have never dreamed we wouldn't see that.
Yeah. By the way, a couple comments coming in, one from Rob and one from Corey about the overturned Banks catch. The early one, the one in the first quarter when they threw it and he was like going down and the ball moved around a little bit. I was a little surprised that they overturned
where there was arguably interference on it too. That one,
that as well. Yeah, that as well. Yes. Yeah, I was surprised that they overturned that one. I thought that because they called it complete on the field, they weren't going to be able to.
It was. I was hoping that, but
by the way, A&M just took the lead on a crazy little run.
Hey,
yeah. So they're.
You love to see that for Trev. You love to see that for Trev. That's great.
They're wearing black. Hey, how funny is it that they're wearing all black uniforms today? When Trev
I know.
I care about the brand consistency.
Oh, and Michigan State's going to get the ball back. They scored, and they're going to get the ball back. Yeah, Michigan State's going to get a shot at this.
All right, I'm turning it over there. Wow, 4:42 to go, dude. This is if they are unable to come back, like they got to feel horrible because a loss here would have maybe kept Michigan from going to a bowl game, just given how tough the end of their season schedule is. Also, it's such a bummer Nebraska doesn't play Michigan this year.
How about Illinois? I didn't think Illinois was going to beat Oregon, but just getting murdered by them.
They got destroyed.
You see that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oregon looks like the best team in the country. I feel very comfortable in saying that. I don't know if they're going to win the national title, but I feel like that they are easily the best team in the country.
Yeah, one more second on the clock. They might have lost to Ohio State.
Yeah,
who Nebraska should have just beat. Like, I can't emphasize it anymore, guys. Like, you think you know something about college football, you don't. Don't use if you try and use the transitive thing, it is going to make your head explode. In the Big Ten, even just in the Big Ten alone, it'll make your head completely explode. So when I say I don't know what's going to happen when Nebraska plays UCLA, I don't know what's going to happen. And when you ask me, does Nebraska have a chance of going 4-0 or 4-0, 4-0 or 0-4, and I say yes to both, I think that's very true. Like, it's just this season is crazy. College football is generally, but it's more true than ever this year. So,
well, it's a bummer you say it because I was literally just going to ask you. So, what do we think happens next week versus UCLA?
I mean, I think they. Well, first of all, let's play guess the line.
So I was looking at SP Plus earlier, and it was like 12. And 12? Then I was looking at the. Let me find it real fast. The College Football Insiders page, and you know what? Now that they have probably extra data in here, I actually might be able to have an updated
I will say, without doing anything or looking at anything, I will say 9.5.
9.5. See, yeah, that sounds about right. I'm about to post this screenshot, and I think I posted it in the coffee show earlier today as well. But it's close to 10 points. That would be about 10 points, 10.5 points for Nebraska at home versus UCLA. I think that NU1 says I think he means Nebraska -8, but yeah, I think that I think a line somewhere in that range, more than a touchdown, but not 2. Not 2 scores, but not 2 touchdowns. Yeah, I'll go 10. I'll guess 10, and Nebraska -10.
Let's get back to this in a second, but there's Dave Fight had this stat: longest running plays by Nebraska players in 2024. 42 yards, Emmett Johnson. 38 yards, Dylan Raiola, which was today.
That's hilarious.
Which Dante Dowdell, 38 yards. Ja'Cory Barney, 31 yards. 18 yards for Ramir Johnson. The lack of big plays for this offense is unbelievable. Most of teams usually have that wild card for them. It's just the occasional random big play, Josh. Nebraska just doesn't. They don't have the big pass or run.
They don't. Yeah, Bruce, how about Dylan running today? Talk about an unforeseen thing. We didn't talk about that at all in our preview pod today.
For the record, I mean, it's great. This is why I wanted Harberg in. It changes everything if that quarterback.
The math.
Even if he's not fast, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like Mahomes is like when Mahomes runs, he's zipping down the sideline with tons of speed. It changes everything. If that's at least an option. And that was why the game got going well, I think.
Yeah, and Dave points out Dylan still has negative yards on the season. It's wild. Like, even with all those.
By the way, long sacks.
First play from scrimmage for Michigan State, and they get a grounding call, so they are already pushed back.
Oh, good Lord. Aiden Childs, man. I don't know if that guy's going to be an NFL quarterback or not. I think some people do, but that dude throws a lot of bad passes.
Yeah, they'll probably go after him because they like, some of the measurables, but
yeah, it's a measure. I mean, I think in 2 years they expect him to be. Oh, they got a bunch of it back.
It's like whenever they talk about Jalen Milroe, I'm like, really? You think that guy's going to be a good guy in the pros?
Yeah. No, but thank you. Speaking of the NFL, though, I mean that Nebraska just played against. I don't know, Josh. I would guess one of the guys on the offensive line, 2 of the receivers, so 3. Probably 3 of the guys on defense. Probably 6 guys who are first or second rounders, and that's probably being conservative that they just played against, right? 6 guys,
a lot of guys. And how about the fact that, as I pull back up the box score, dude, the guy that I was so frightened about in this game was Jeremiah Smith. Dude. I mean, he still had 4 catches for 70 yards, but like, I think that
who was on him? By the way,
I want to look at his game log. Is that his worst game so far?
Did you?
That's his. His.
Was that Sierra Wright? Was that Sierra Wright shutting
him
down? Kind of. I mean, not shutting him down. But.
Yeah, 70 catches and 70 yards and 3 catches ties the exact amount of production that he had versus Marshall. But that was a game that they won by 35. So if you look at, he had 9 for 100 versus Oregon. He had 4 for 89 versus Iowa. He had 5 for 83 in that ridiculous one-handed catch versus Michigan State. He has a touchdown still in every game. He has 7 touchdowns on the year. He's crazy.
If this defense can do what
rushing.
If this defense can do what they did today, this team should win every game remaining.
Yeah.
I know they may not do what they did.
In a vacuum, if they perform today like they did
today, if they can
do
that, there's no reason they shouldn't. There's no reason they should lose a game the rest of the way.
It's just, can they do that? Can they bottle up? Can they bottle up that performance? And can they do it again and again and again and then one more time?
Because you cannot overstate how good that. Like, I don't know when there was. We would have to go back against that kind of an opponent, that kind of performance, and
D'Lo says best defensive performance since ? Question mark.
Oh, that's a great question mark. I mean, I'm sure they shut somebody out, right? I mean, they obviously shut Purdue out, but
here's a random one that comes into my mind.
They didn't shut Purdue out.
The 2011 Michigan State game with an NFL quarterback on the other side of the field when John got triggered that they didn't rush the ball enough.
That's probably up there. The Michigan State game,
2024 Colorado. I mean, you know what? I'll give you that. There are NFL players on that
this year.
Too. Yeah, a couple months ago.
This defense can win you any game. This defense
if they play to this capacity
game, and yes, if they can play at the top, they will win the next 4 games if they play at the top of their.
Yep, just got to keep doing it.
I mean, in those matchups, they will win the next 4 games.
Yeah, Yeah, and Dilo says, if you consider the team, I think today was better. It definitely was. It definitely was.
And especially, hopefully, getting that bye week and getting people healthy. And this is freaking, again, with Tommy Hill, the 1 first-round draft pick on that defense, supposedly. Jamari Butler's going to be a first-round draft pick, I'm starting to think, though.
Really?
Not next year, but the year after.
Interesting.
Oh,
he was getting after him.
Tommy Hill's borderline, too. I think nobody has Tommy Hill in all of them anymore.
I'd be surprised.
He's going to, let me just say that. I mean, probably to explain that better, he's going to be getting the kind of hype Tommy Hill is.
Yeah. Interesting.
Wherever
yeah, Bruce. Jamari was nails today. Yeah, he was. By the way, couple things.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. No, you go ahead.
Real quick. Also, redshirt talk. How many games is can you add Van Poppel to the mix more now? Is he 2 games in?
Yeah, I don't know. In Wisconsin, I think that they just gave up a touchdown, so Penn State's going to go up by 2 scores. They're going to win that game. I don't know, Jack. I don't know. I mean, they've talked so much about him redshirting, so
I'm getting frustrated that I don't know what's happening. I probably should ask someone because I could probably find out, but
about Malachi.
I mean, let's see Malachi out there.
Yeah, you have a great source on this, Jack. I think that you could definitely ask. Whether or not you want to share what you learn is up to you, but you definitely could get the answer. You just got to ask. I love asking.
Yeah, I do. I don't like to pry. Sometimes
you don't, because you could very much find out, but no one's going to pressure you to. So
I actually could probably find out in 2 different places. But I hope we can see it. God, for his sake. I mean, what are we doing here?
Certainly
Josh,
seems like if he's living on borrowed time with Nebraska is what I would.
It does. It'd be another thing if all the wide receivers were kicking ass, but nobody is.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, I would venture to guess that.
But they put him in
the
on
Malachi Coleman era at Nebraska is probably coming to a close.
Yeah, it must be. But
Pearl says, why didn't Carter Nelson play? Carter hasn't really been playing a whole lot lately at all, right? Like this isn't sadly.
He's still redshirt.
Good question. I don't know what the. I would be surprised, right? Like I can think of at least 3 games off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
4.
But I was just curious. I think you're right, but I was starting to wonder.
Yeah,
and again, are we ever going to see Gabe Ervin? I don't think so.
No, I think it's time to give up. I think you and D'Lo, again, as you guys continue to become best friends,
buddies.
I think that you two need to give up on hoping for Gabe Ervin.
I still can't believe you wouldn't give him a shot. I can't believe you wouldn't give him a shot. Same way with Malachi.
Yeah,
like I can't believe you wouldn't give on this offense. You wouldn't give a little new blood a shot. To be honest, so they are going to Lloyd more. It is interesting. They're trying to use Lloyd more in kind of the Ja'Cory Barney role, sort of, Yep.
Yeah, he had only 1 target today, -1 yards on said target. But yeah, certainly in previous weeks, there was that joke for a while because Stumanji pointed it out that every game that he ever had a catch in, he only had 1. And he has now multiple games this year with more than 1 catch, including last week, right? Like last week he had multiple catches, 3 or 4.
Yeah. But short catches. I thought he was going to be doing freaking fly routes
and that goes back to an earlier conversation which is where are those types of plays? Where are those types of plays?
Which we already had earlier, which means it's time to end because we're going in circular motions now. But this was a good conversation today.
It was. If you are hanging out in the YouTube chat, Jack, the YouTube chat is popping tonight, and all those folks are just chatting with each other and debating things. We would ask you to do a couple of things. Like, subscribe, turn on the little notification bell, so you get access to all of the stuff that we put on YouTube for free. Because, Jack, coming up in the next few weeks, we are rolling out a lot of new stuff, including after Nebraska ball, which will start a week from Monday after Nebraska's season opener, as Michigan State almost throws an interception on 4th down. Michigan football, the Spartans do have 3 timeouts with 1:52 to go. But we will be rolling out our brand new post-game show with Jack, with Caleb Henry, and with Jacob Bigelow. That is starting a week from Monday. Also, next week on Friday, the Nebraska Ball Brunch Show begins in earnest with Jack and Caleb Henry. Again, so if you just go like, subscribe, and get those notifications, you will get all access to all of these and more moving forward on the I-80 Club YouTube channel.
Do it. We're going to have fun. I can't wait to see what it's like. I don't even totally know yet, but we'll be getting after it less than a week now. Friday, we do that brunch show, and And then, UT Rio Grande, upset alert for them, obviously. They might come in and beat Nebraska ball in game 1, and we'll have the reaction right afterwards.
Yeah. Next week, just housekeeping as we get ready to say goodbye. A lot of people dropping off right now. Come and hang out with us still. We're telling you.
Oh, they know the sales pitch. They don't want that.
I don't want that. Next week, Jack is talking to Kent Pavelka. That pod is going to drop on Tuesday morning. Check that one out on Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. on the I-80 Club YouTube channel. Wednesday night into club. Patrons only. Patrons only on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. So if you'd like this type of stuff, multiple hours a week, you can get it there. And then the aforementioned basketball content, we will do a preview pod next Saturday morning, and we'll be doing another late night pod later night next Saturday, Jack, probably in the 9 to 9:30 range. More info as we get closer.
The late night bowl eligible pod, perhaps.
Let's go. Many are saying.
We're doing a half-hour bowl projections at least.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. It's too bad. If they would have won tonight, we might have done 2 hours if they would have won. But instead, we're saying goodbye.
It would have been. I texted Josh. You should save the text. At one point, I said, Josh, it's going to be the most must-watch content I've ever created in my life if they win this game.
I hate to even let myself think about it, but if somehow it happens, I'm going to be the most must-watch I've ever been in my entire life. And I used a lot of F words in the following text to you.
I don't remember what happened after that. They had I don't remember.
I guess you used some F words too. We were cussing up.
Well, I was using them because right after I texted you at halftime, then Hartzog got that interception.
Oh yeah,
that was the
happier times. All right, we are back for patrons. We're back for patrons on Wednesday. We are back on YouTube though on Tuesday morning. I'm Josh. Jack and Kent Pavelka. Can't wait for that +1 interview. Thanks to everybody for hanging out with us. Again, like and subscribe. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you dig what we're doing here. He's Jack. I'm Josh. We'll talk to you later. Goodbye.